Welcome to the another beautiful episode of Habits. We were discussing about tracking of the habits in the previous episode. If you haven't watched it, just watch the previous episode and then come back here. So, breaking the gravitational pull of bad habits. The best time to overcome bad habits is before they are established. Our rational intellect must evaluate their cumulative power. Drinking a peg of alcohol may not be bad for health in a day, but over the years, ingesting hundreds of gallons will definitely be unhealthy for us. An action, when done just once, is negligible, but becomes very significant when it is repeated over an extended period of time. However, if bad habits have already been created, they do not go away on their own. They are always undo it yourself projects. You might have heard about DIY. It is UIY, undo it yourself projects. They are like cables formed from iron strands. Individually, the strands can be snapped with a little effort, but tied together, they become a formidable cable with the strength to lift many tons of weight. Likewise, stray actions are easy to correct, but once etched as habits by force of repetition, they possess strength that becomes difficult to break. As a result, changing old habits is never easy. It is like launching a rocket into space. In the first few minutes of the flight, as the rocket breaks through the downward pull of gravity, maximum fuel is needed. Once the escape velocity has been achieved, the energy consumed becomes marginal and the rocket is practically propelled by its own momentum. Hence, more fuel is consumed in the liftoff than in the millions of miles of travel that follows. So let's move on. Powerful image. Here it is a coffee shop. I have been advised to change my habits, so I am giving up the good ones. They are easier to stop than the bad ones. This is the bad choice. Like if you are giving up the good ones, so easy, but it is disturbing in the long run. The same applies to habits. They exert a gravitational force on our personality that must be broken with patience, commitment, and understanding. The liftoff demands tremendous effort, but once we break out of gravitational pull of shackling habits, our freedom acquires a completely new dimension. So, how we can achieve this liftoff? The starting point. First point of that is importance of willpower. Changing habits can be a profitable task, but also one of the most challenging. Uprooting bad habits that have grown up to become mighty oaks is no child's play. Even the slightest progress in this direction requires self control to resist bad behavior and act upon the good one. Thus, we may read the best books and hear the best knowledge, but if we are lacking in willpower, we will not be able to benefit from this information. The gap between the knowledge and its practice must always be bridged as by discipline. Abundance of willpower provides us the strength to resist animal like impulses when they are rise their head. Hence, it is on the bedrock of self restraint too that we must build habits that will bestow on us a lifetime of courage, forbearance, and peace. In reality, lack of self control is akin to a mental disease that makes us feeble and irresolute. When we see this weakness within, we must make it a priority to stamp it out. We develop self discipline by exercising it, in much the same way as we build our muscles. Every time we follow through on a resolution, we liberate the force of willpower within. But each time we break our resolve not to indulge in sense pleasures, the muscle of self control becomes emaciated. In this way, small moment to moment victories lead to larger success. The more we exert our willpower, the greater it grows. But if we neglect it, our self discipline will dwindle and wither away like unused muscles in the body. Let us exert ourselves courageously to fight the gravitational pull of our bad habits. Once the new habit begins to grow, it becomes progressively easier, and then one day the desired behavior comes naturally. When we see people with stellar qualities, we wonder how they reached there. Well, it was all a matter of exerting their willpower for some time until the new habit kicked in. As simple as that. Understanding this, let us push ourselves to unleash the power of a controlled mind and an illumined intellect. I have covered this topic in the great detail in this book, Seven Minds of for Success, Happiness and Fulfillment, written by Swami Mukundananda. Having said this, a word of caution is again necessary, for changing habits is never easy. Even when the change seems to have been effected, there is always a danger of falling back into old behaviors and thought patterns. The reason is that the basal ganglia remembers the context that triggers a habit. So, old habits can be revived when triggers reappear. Thus, it is important while endeavoring to change to warily avoid the triggers that previously reinforce the old habit. With a firm decision to transform, we should exercise utmost care to sidestep the contexts conducive to old habits. Such a firm decision requires the intellect to become resolute and illumined. Our discussion on habits has naturally led to the topic of intellect, buddhi. What is its function and how is it different from the mind? We consider this question in the next chapter. The summary of this powerful chapter, The Power of Habits, is most of our thoughts and behaviors are not a consciously analyzed response to situations. We respond involuntarily based on our habitual thought patterns. Positive thinking cannot be accomplished through individual thoughts. It requires installing the desired thought patterns as habits within ourselves. A repetitive thought etches a deep groove in the neural network of the brain, making the recurrence of that thought very easy. In this manner, habits exert a gravitational pull upon our behavior that becomes difficult to break. Good character is the result of good habits, while bad character results from bad habits. To change unwanted habits, we must repeatedly convince ourselves of the benefits that will accrue from changing these detrimental habits. We must also reflect deeply about the pain that will be caused by not changing them. Just as a rocket expends more fuel during takeoff than in the rest of its flight journey, similarly, the liftoff in the process of forging new habits is the most difficult. It requires developing and exercising the muscle of willpower. With sufficient repetition, the new behavior or thought develops into a new habit, replacing the old one. During the transition phase, avoid the context that triggers the old habit. We will see the next chapter, the role of the intellect in controlling the mind, in the next episode. Until then, stay connected and just revise the last few points, how to take care of the lift off period while starting a new habit or while overcoming the bad habits of old habits. Okay, see you tomorrow in another episode. Until then, stay connected, keep progressing.